All right, what's up, guys? It's another edition of the Triple Play podcast with myself, Owen Oszust, and Nick Koski. It was a big day, especially for Detroit Tigers fans, uh, especially for ones like us growing up. We each, I guess, shared on social media. At least your dad did. I don't know if you did on your personal account, but uh, old pictures of us as kids and Justin Verlander. And would you believe it or not, the year's 2026, and Justin Verlander is once again pitching for the Detroit Tigers. Isn't that insane, Nick?
Let's go. It's been something that was floated around, I feel like, the past few years where Detroit Tigers fans were hoping Verlander would come back and do a little bit of a retirement tour
Mhm.
with the Tigers organization. He said it himself. He wanted to come back and he'd be open to the possibility of returning to Detroit. And here we go. Here it is. Verlander's back home. And it couldn't be at a better time with the Reese Olson news that subsequently followed the announcement of Justin Verlander. Owen, I want to ask you this question. Were you more excited from the Verlander news or the Valdez news? What kind of drew you in
Oh,
more? What was more exciting? Because with
100%
the
Verlander.
Verlander move, there's so much nostalgia there.
Yeah, it's just
It's
the
so exciting.
nostalgia. I don't expect him to go out and win 20 games this year. Like I don't expect him to win AL Cy Young or whatever. Obviously, you bring him in to replace Reese Olson. We can talk about Reese in a second, but the nostalgia of us growing up playing baseball, like most of the guys we grew up watching are never going to play again, especially not for the Detroit Tigers, where we went to a bunch of games as kids and watched. Like we were talking about this earlier off the podcast, but me, you, and Colton Knowles all went to Justin Verlander's final start as a Detroit Tiger. That was against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Um, we kind of knew at the time. I don't know if you quite remember that day, but we kind of knew that was pretty much it for Verlander. Trades were circulating, the trade rumors and everything, because if you remember, trade deadline wasn't as big back then. It was the waiver deadline, which was at the end of August. Obviously, now that's changed, but going back to that day, it was August 20th. I was against the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a no hitter through 5 2/3, and it was Curtis Granderson that hit the home run to break that up. The Tigers did win that game 6-1, and the starting pitcher that got the loss for the Dodgers was Kenta Maeda. So kind of a full circle moment right there. You did end up going 8 innings, only giving up 1 run too. So
Yeah, the nostalgia is going to be coursing through my veins with Verlander back. Honestly, actually, I'm still going to say that the Valdez signing was a little bit
wow.
more impactful for me because at that point, we didn't think this was a Tigers team or a Tigers ownership group that was going to spend. So that was more shocking. But when Verlander was announced, we can jump into Reese Olson a little bit too. But it's kind of a bummer to have Reese with a lingering shoulder injury have to miss this entire season when you look back and say, okay, it was going on since last summer. Why not
Mhm.
do the surgery older or a little bit earlier? It's a little bit of a missed opportunity and something that lingered and probably should have been just surgically repaired when it happened last season. So a little
Yeah,
bit of mishandling of that situation and
I don't,
something that can get better.
I was just gonna say I don't know who that falls on, if that's him saying like I want to keep trying to let it heal on its own. I'm sure he got it evaluated and got options, and maybe it was him that was trying to say I'm just gonna try to let it heal and not go through surgery and everything that didn't work out. But I think it was interesting with the obviously they're bringing back Justin Verlander, but it was a 1 year, $13 million deal, which was actually less than they gave Alex Cobb last year, not even pitch at all. And $11 million of that money is deferred in payments starting in 2030. So you can take that however you want. I know it's Justin Verlander. He's going to be turning 43 years old in 10 days. So uh, you know, nostalgia really hit. Will he make a huge impact on this team. We'll see. I think it's more of behind the scenes of him, mentoring the younger pitchers that they're trying to bring up. And I think the clubhouse factor is so big for him too, to really try to mesh the guys, bring them together. We weren't in the clubhouse, but it felt like during that stretch, especially in September, when things started falling apart, felt like maybe the clubhouse wasn't all there clicking. And so maybe he's a guy that can kind of bring it all together. It would be awesome to see him go out on top and win a ring, to cap off his Major League Baseball career as a Detroit Tiger. But we'll see. They still got to add some bats though, too.
Yeah, you can look at the stats from Verlander last year. I believe he finished around a 3.8 ERA when it was all said and done. He got off to a really slow start, didn't get that many wins, but down the stretch is when he really thrived. He had a sub 3 ERA
Hmm.
for a long stretch of later in the season when the Giants to that point were playing really meaningful baseball. He gave them a little bit over 150 innings. So we mentioned it on the last podcast that starting pitching depth can wear out or wear thin really fast. And with
Hmm.
Reese Olson already being gone for the entirety of the 2026 campaign, we don't know what Jackson Job's timeline looks like when he returns as well. But
I
this
would
really
just
takes
assume Job's out this
I
year
would
too,
assume
but
Job's out as well. But I think that this is really a good opportunity for some of the younger pitchers because it takes a lot of pressure off guys like Troy Melton or a Drew Anderson who hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball in however many years, or a Cater Montero. Those guys can just be complementary pieces now, and you're not going to have to rely on them in key situations because of this addition. And I think it makes the Tigers a lot better. Now, the question is, adding Verlander and losing Reese Olson, how much does it really make them a better team? I would rather probably have Verlander over Reese Olson. I don't know if that's a hot take,
well, because
but
of
I
his
just think I think you were talking about it, but the leadership is so important
yeah.
to a team that when things were going wrong last year, they didn't really have a true senior player leader in that clubhouse. You have AJ Hinch, who's a great manager. He's been there, he's won it all, but there wasn't really a player that you could really look towards. I wouldn't probably look at Javier Baez. I love Javi after the season he had last year, but that's probably not a guy that when the chips are all down, you're gonna turn and look to him for advice. And Verlander brings them that.
I think the biggest thing, if you're just talking about pitching wise, obviously off the field stuff, he's great, but his experience, especially in the postseason, with a club now that is going to try to make it 3 straight years and try to get past the divisional series. This guy has been to World Series, now won World Series since the last time he was in Detroit. But I don't expect him to be starting World Series games. If he were to, I think it would be on a limited basis. I think he's going to be a guy, if they get to that point, that he will be throwing 1 to 2 innings, maybe in relief, some big spot where you can have JV go in there. It's sort of like what Clayton Kershaw did with the Dodgers this past year, where he had some really big spots where like the bases loaded. They brought in Kershaw, got out of it, and then he was pretty much it. But for the regular season, obviously, is going to be a guy that every 4 to 5 days that he's going to come around and hopefully give the Tigers, maybe he can finish around a 4 ERA, a little bit lower, but we'll see. I mean, he's
Yeah,
43 years old, so
and I'd love to talk to and hear your opinions on what you think the expectations are for this Tigers team with the addition of Justin Verlander. We now have a starting pitching rotation. I believe the number is around 100 million that they're spending in their starters. That
mhm.
is more than the entire Cleveland Guardians and Minnesota Twins rosters combined just in starting pitching. So for those who have questioned Chris Illidge and Scott Harris and signing big players, I think those, you know, that chirping has been put to rest. The Tigers
Well, he
now
still
have
hasn't
the
signed a
ninth.
bat, though. To be fair, you still haven't signed a
They
bat.
haven't signed haven't signed a bat, but being realistic, if you were to tell me that the Tigers are going to be top 10 in payroll, which they are with this addition, I'm
Mhm.
completely happy being a top 10 payroll. I don't need to spend as much as the Dodgers. I don't need to spend as much as the Mets. I'm completely happy with ownership if they can continuously put a product on the field that's top 10 in in overall salary. But I
Mhm.
do want to hear, Owen, what are your expectations for this team? Where do you see them finishing? I'll give mine really quick. I think they're pretty much a lock for the division. If they did not win the division, this would be an absolutely disastrous season. And in a terrible AL Central, you can absolutely not have that. And it would go down as probably one of the worst Tiger seasons of all time if they didn't win this division. And with that being said, I'm going to put the cap on an ALCS appearance. I don't think they get over that hump and win the American League. I like what they've done. It feels like they're going all in, which was our biggest critique up to this point. But I don't think they make it to the World Series, pending a big move for more offense at the trade deadline, which jury's still out if Scott Harris is going to make that move, and we'll see where this team's going to be. But that's where I have them ALCS, and then season's
Yeah,
over.
I,
Cancun.
Cancun. I 100% agree. I think this is a team that needs to have the expectations to win the division. As much crap as I've been saying for not signing a bat, I do think. Well, they did sign Austin Slater today, which, by the way, uh, not really a dude that's going to move the needle. He had 216 with 5 home runs and 13 RBIs last year. So, not a dude that's really. He's a veteran bat. Is he going to be a game changer? No. He's a righty, so whatever that's worth. There's a lot of lefties in Detroit's lineup, so maybe they put him in there. But I don't think he's going to be a game changer whatsoever. But I do think the Tigers win the division. I am curious to see injury wise how they fare as the season progresses because it feels like at some point they are going to be hit with one. Last year it was really Jackson Jobe for the most part. I know Kyle Finnegan got dinged up and he was out for a little bit too, but they have a little bit of some older pieces like Kenley Jansen. Sometimes it's easy to forget they signed him. How much of an impact can he be in the bullpen? Uh, can Kyle Finnegan get back to his peak state? I think this team has the potential to win the American League. I'm not saying they're going to. I think they have the potential to. But again, I need to see moves made at the trade deadline if they are lacking in certain places. Now, whether that's going to be pitching because another injury happened, like what if Justin Verlander goes down in May and he can't come back until September or something like that? Maybe they need to add another pitcher. Maybe they need to go out and add another bat. But I think this, for the first few months, you're really going to evaluate your hitting situation in your lineup. When you call up these younger guys, like you would assume Kevin McGonigal is going to be first. He's I would hope makes the opening day roster if he has a good spring. If he doesn't, then it is what it is. But if you call him up and he's not cutting it, maybe you look at an infielder. Or if Parker Meadows is not cutting it in the outfield where he can't supply at least hitting 250, I'll just throw that out there, then you got to go out and get another outfielder. I just don't see Max Clark being an impact guy in his rookie year if he is called up, I guess, to help out the squad this year. But these are all big things. I think there's other teams. I think the Blue Jays are still a factor. I know they lost Bichette, but they still have some other key guys that they signed as well. Could the Yankees make a run? Uh, I don't think there's anyone in the Central. Obviously, we've seen Cleveland do it a few different times. People are saying Kansas City could put things together. I've heard that before, and they haven't done it. So I think if I had to make a bold prediction, I think the Tigers will indeed make the World Series, but get swept by the
Wow.
Dodgers.
Swept. You're not even going to give them one game.
No, I mean, man, that team is really good out there. When you win back-to-back World Series, and then you add Kyle Tucker and you add Edwin Diaz in your bullpen. I mean, it's just not fair, man. I don't see anyone beating the Dodgers.
It's not fair, but the thing I love about baseball and what, in my opinion, makes it one of the best sports in the world is that weird things happen in baseball.
Would you be
So I'm
happy?
not going to count it out.
My question is, would you be happy if my prediction came true when they made the World Series but got swept? Keep in mind, they have not won a World Series game since the '06 World Series, which was only one. So would you be happy and satisfied after tearing everything down with like those really good teams they had to try to build it all back up to this point and they can't even won a World Series game? Or would you be happy because it came full circle, I guess?
Well, I would say I'd only be happy if we win the championship, win the World Series. A lot of Detroit fans are just
But they haven't made
complacent
the
and
World
they're
Series
okay.
since 12, so
Yeah, that's great, but losing the World Series in 2012 is heartbreaking. I don't want to go through that again. I'm not going to be happy to lose in the World Series. I want to
so
win it
would you
all.
rather lose in the ALDS again then?
No.
So you're
Well, you
saying,
asked if I
but
was
you're
going to be
basically
happy.
saying World
I
Series or bust.
look, that's how every sports team should operate. You should be going for it
I don't
all.
disagree.
You shouldn't be content with coming short. Like the Lions, I feel like they're content with coming up short.
Well, I think
They don't got that dog in them.
we'll see what happens this year with the Lions, but I think it's going to be interesting, especially after this year, because you're going to lose Terry Scoble. You might not even have baseball. You're going to lose Jack
Wait.
Flaherty.
Before I was gonna ask you this question,
Mm,
and I thought of it while you're just going on right there. Do we have full confidence they're gonna lose Scooble with the way that they're spending now?
I do. I still think
Maybe they do just spend the 40 million a year on him and
I don't
defer a lot
see
of the
that.
money.
I
Who
don't see.
knows?
I still don't see that because Scott Harris is not still not shown, despite these signings, that he's not willing to sign a guy for longer than 3 years for a major deal. And Terry Scoble is going to want like more than 6 years, and I just don't see the Tigers giving him that. Is that fair? In ways, yeah, because I mean he's a pitcher, and if you're going to pay him for 6 to 8 plus years, whatever it is, for an enormous amount of money, you're going to see some kind of decline at some point, you would assume, but I don't know for certain. But I think that's their mindset. I think this kind of shows that they're trying to appease the fan base in ways, but also go for it this year as well.
Yeah, I mean they'll probably sell an additional $13 million of revenue of jerseys just from Verlander. I'll probably pick up a
Absolutely.
Verlander jersey, and they'll probably sell a lot more Little Caesars pizza. Maybe I should go out of my way and buy
No,
one
you won't.
because
No, you're
Chris
not.
Illich actually went and
They have
spent
that in
money. Maybe I
Chicago. I don't see that in
pizza. I
Chicago.
bet I could find one in Chicago.
No, I don't see that.
Pizza. Come
Yeah,
on.
it's all Cubbies down there. I would say I want to add this. If things are going with if things are going well with Justin Verlander, where he's got an area of like 5 or something in the month of June, are you going to want to move off of him? Or do you keep him around, try to throw him in the bullpen? These are discussions not being had, but like it's just a thought. If things are going south with him, are you going to be still nostalgic to say like, hey, we got to stick with it, or are you going to be like, nah, we got to move off this thing?
Verlander could have a 6 ERA this season, and I'd still go buy his jersey. He could be so terrible. I'm honestly just so happy to have him back.
But
Maybe that's a cold take,
would
but
you take him
I'm
out
just
of there?
pumped.
Would you take him out of the rotation and put him in the bullpen though?
Yeah, I'd probably take him out of the rotation, but I don't think that's something that's going to happen until September. Look at Paddock and Morton. They kept those guys in the starting rotation for way too long.
And Charlie Morton, he lost to the Braves and then got cut and then signed with them and played with them later in that week.
Yeah, but that was with like 1 or 2 weeks left in the season.
That was still wild. It was still a wild development. It's something you don't see every day.
Yeah. Well, Paddock just got signed somewhere, so
He
he's
did.
back.
Congratulations to him. But
Congratulations, Paddock. See you never.
I'm sure they'll run into him at some point. But I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very excited. And it brings a lot of juice back to the fan base. And I will say, I don't know when it's gonna be. I also don't know where in the rotation they're gonna put him. I would assume they're gonna put him fifth, but like if you were to time it out, assuming that they do that, they start in San Diego. They have to go on the West Coast. So they're going to start with 2 series on the West Coast. You got San Diego for 3 games. Uh, and then that would put him for his first start against the Diamondbacks, if that's going to be the case. So his first home start probably wouldn't be until ooh, One, two, three, four, five. It'd probably be the Marlins in the middle of April. So either way, that's going to be a really cool sight when he takes the mound. I hope they play some nostalgic music, and the place is going to go nuts when he does that. But we'll see.
Yeah, we need some Let It Rock. And shout out my boy Zach Linfield, PA announcer for the Tigers. He's gonna have an electric call when Verlander takes
Wow.
that mound. So looking forward to it. Oh, and I think it's time to switch conversation. I'm gonna go ahead and spitball and bring another conversation to the table that we've talked in the past. I want to talk a little bit Olympics, and there's a
Mm,
story that I want to talk through a little bit. It's been one of the biggest headlines in the Olympic Games so far, and that's Lindsey Vonn skiing on a 100% ruptured ACL. I want to quickly talk about it. I want to give,
wait. I gotta say, she skate. She was skiing on a ruptured ACL, but they took you out of the game when you banged your head. So what does that say about you?
yeah, yeah. Sadly, you can't continue to play with the concussion. And they also took Lindsey Vonn out when she tore her ACL. They took her out.
Shit,
Um,
they did.
Look, I just want to cover it really quick. And give, a little bit of my thoughts. And then maybe if you want to supplement that and give your opinion. A
Hmm.
lot of the conversation recently has been, should she have tried to go after it? Should she have skied? Should she have sat out, maybe given the opportunity to somebody else? In my opinion, for those who said she shouldn't have even tried, it was stupid, it wasn't smart, I think
Hmm.
that she earned the decision to be able to go and ski at the Olympics because in order to qualify for an Olympics, in order to train so hard to even become an Olympic athlete, so much goes into that to get hurt 2 weeks before the event. I
Hmm.
have a lot of respect for her and the toughness and going out there and trying to compete. I think that was very bold, pushing yourself to the limit. Maybe it wasn't the best um, thing for people that look up to her, which is like, hey, you should push yourself past your limits in sports all the time.
Hmm.
But I think she definitely, and this is the same for any Olympic athlete, if you earn and train all the way to get to the Olympics, I think you earn the right to make that decision, whether it was the right decision, whether it was the wrong decision. It looked like it was the wrong decision, but I have no problem with it. I think that she she earned the decision and she has the right to make it. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on if she should have competed, if she should have not. Any other Olympic conversations that you've been following closely? I know that's the biggest headline, but
No, yeah, I
curious your
want to talk about Lindsay. Yeah, I think she is the ultra competitor, and we've seen this at the highest level for professional athletes. Like, for example, let's say a pitcher in baseball is like Max Scherzer in the playoffs for the Tigers. He didn't want to come out when the bases were loaded. I mean, like situations where you can't tell a professional athlete that has worked their butt off so hard that like you probably shouldn't keep going, but it's like I've worked so hard for this moment. You're going to deny me of that. Like Lindsey Vonn is such a legendary ski and snowboarder and everything. I mean, five Olympic teams starting in 2002. She, obviously, she wanted to go back out on top, and like for this to probably be more than likely it for her, like to say you put all this hard work and preparation and you qualified because you have to qualify for these things. These things aren't given to you to go through all that process and have this opportunity even with an injury. I still give her a lot of respect. I know it's a tough situation, but there will be another athlete's time to come. And also, if there was another better athlete, they would have beat her out in qualification. Now, I know she was injured, but like she qualified, she was the better one, injury or not. So that's my opinion. Uh, it is what it is at that point. It was tough to
yeah.
see her get hurt again and they have to take her out. But I think as an ultra competitor, I give her so much respect for trying. Now, other people could have stepped in and said, no, like you're not going to do this. But at the end of the day, it was her decision. She put the hard work in, like you said. And Unfortunately, it didn't end the way she wanted to, but still a very legendary career.
Yeah, very very respectable that she even gave it a go. Obviously, wishing her a full recovery. I know she also broke her leg
Hmm.
on top of tearing her ACL, so hopefully
Which
she
can
has a
always
good
happen in
recovery.
any sport, especially
Yeah,
yeah, it's such a risk in that sport that you could just snap your leg if you hit a
yeah.
hail wrong or something. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this was for, or maybe it was the same event as Lindsey Vonn, but they did a POV of one of the Olympics doing the downhill skiing of for one of the athletes, and I think they go like 90 miles per hour
it's fast, yeah.
skiing. It's
Yeah,
absolutely insane to put yourself in that situation. I don't think the normal person could even comprehend that, but it's been a fun Olympics so far. I've been watching a lot of curling. Team USA, I believe, got silver today right
that's
before we
correct.
recorded. Evan
Thursday,
Bates, the
I was gonna, I was just gonna say Thursday for
mhm,
I'm most passionate, obviously, about hockey. Thursday is the first preliminary game for the United States. Um, then they play two more this weekend against Denmark and Germany, and then they start the playoff round on Tuesday. So it's very quick how that kind of ramps up. But
mhm.
uh, I know after watching Four Nations last year, I'm not sure if you watched it, Nick, but man, that was some great hockey. Uh, I'm very excited to see these countries and these players compete at the highest level because I mean, there's nothing like it. We'll see if the United States could pull off a gold. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm going to guess no, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And then I know the women's hockey team today, they played Team Canada and they won 5-0, shutting out Canada for the first time ever. And I believe their 40 game history in the Olympics. So
I
that's
don't see that
probably going to
happening on the
be
men's
a,
side.
yeah, that's what.
I said I don't see that happening on the men's side,
Yeah,
but
I don't see that happening on the men's side either, but at least on the women's side, USA Canada is probably going to end up being your title match for gold and good start for Team USA. I also, sorry to hijack this with Olympics. I've been following a lot and watching, but Ilya, the figure skater for US men's, was out here doing backflips on
well,
one skate. I don't know if you've seen that, Owen, but
I've
if those
not.
listening have not seen it, he was doing backflips on the ice just for fun. It wasn't even graded as a jump, and they
Could
just
you
made
do
it.
that? Have you ever
I
tried that?
I could not even do a normal backflip. I would fall
Not
flat on
even
my
into,
face. But
not even into Jack's pool. You couldn't hit a backflip.
yeah, I don't even have the guts to try a backflip.
Okay, all right.
But it was crazy, amazing feat, and yeah, they don't count the backflip and how they score like your jumps or your big jumps in figure skating. So he was
Mhm.
basically just doing it for fun. It's insane. So if you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. But I know we have about 5 more minutes, Owen. So happy
Super
to,
Bowl, real quick. Thoughts on the
yeah, let's
game?
recap the Super Bowl. First off, shout out. I'm giving a lot of shout outs nowadays. Jay Harbaugh, former Michigan staffer that I worked with, Chris Partridge, shout out him.
Hmm.
NCAA did him dirty. He's the GOAT. And Harry McCarthy, he works in player personnel for the Seahawks. Happy for all those guys. Happy for all the old Michigan players. K9, not my favorite guy, but winning Super Bowl MVP. A little bit of a snooze fest, but hey, if Sam Darnold can win a Super Bowl, he didn't really do anything in the Super Bowl, but that gives me
But
hope
that's
that Jared Goff
their
can do it. So
defense. Yeah, their defense is so good. I mean, it was for the most part a really good defensive battle. Like those were two of the best defenses in the NFL for good reason. I did everyone picked Seattle for the most part. I thought Seattle would win, they did, but yeah, it unfortunately couldn't be closer the way I liked it in the second half, and I think that's where we saw the viewership dip a little bit was the second highest viewed Super Bowl behind last year's, even though last year was also a blowout. But yeah, still, I guess, a successful for the NFL Super Bowl.
yeah, and this is just a thought kind of going into this upcoming Lions season. You've seen the Lions, and this was a shift in the NFL in general, was everyone was loading up on offense. It was the best offenses were winning the Super Bowl. The Seahawks just laid the blueprint that with such a strong defense, you
Hmm.
can win a Super Bowl. And where they really, stood out on tape was their pass rush and how they got after the quarterback. Shout out Will Campbell. He's going to be working at Amazon probably.
Yeah, dude, he's a
but
dog.
uh, but yeah,
He'll
the
figure it out.
defense pass rush and getting after the quarterback, you don't have to have a good secondary if you have a good pass rush. So Lions, I hope you were watching as some of the Max Crosby rumors heat up and as we approach this offseason. I
I'll believe it
think
when I see it, though. The
I'll
Max
believe it when I
Crosby
see it.
rumors they can go
Yeah.
up and down. I've seen it like three different times, and
Yeah.
I mean, you can say whatever you want on podcasts and stuff, but like if you're not gonna pull the trigger and actually trade for him, it doesn't matter. It's like Devin Booker and the Pistons. Like the same. Like he
Yeah.
always have to waste management open and whatever wearing a Detroit thing again, and it doesn't matter. Like he's never coming to Detroit unless it's like when he's much older. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was for the NFL very successful because they're trying to make it a worldwide brand and having a halftime performance like that's what you're going after. It's interesting to see the viewership dip a little bit from last year, but it's obviously still a successful event, and it will be interesting to see what ESPN brings because they now are going to be broadcasting the upcoming Super Bowl. It's going to be on like four different platforms because it's like Hulu, ESPN Plus, ABC, and then you have the normal ESPN. So it's like, what are they going to do on all those types of platforms? How are they going to brand this? They were already trying to push it on everybody with Disneyland stuff. I don't know if you saw their shows there, but
Yeah.
they're already on top of it. So it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to
K9
see.
K9 and Sam Darnold in the teacups at Disneyland. Yeah.
Are you a big
Game
teacup guy?
No, I have not done the teacups in a
You've
long
never been
time.
on
They
the
make me
teacups?
nauseous. I
But
don't
you
need
don't
to
have
be
to
spun
spin
around
it
again.
though.
Yeah, but then
Dude, I
what's the
would
fun?
as a kid, I I would get in those teacups, me and my brother, and I'd just like grab it. If you really grab it right, you could spin the crap out of it. A
Hmm.
good time. Now, obviously, they
Yeah.
weren't doing that. They were just kind of chilling. It seemed a little awkward. I'm not gonna lie between the two of
Yeah.
them. I don't think they're that close.
I
But they're like,
I
"Hey
don't,
guys, we're going to teacups." So,
yeah, I'll say that too. I don't think they were the ones that chose to do that. I think I think that was a pre-made decision. Last comment on the Super Bowl, since the game wasn't great. Again, trying to appeal to the global audience and the audience here in the U.S. with Bad Bunny as the halftime performer, I think is a trend that you've continued to see in sports, especially as the NFL continues to grow.
mhm.
I personally really like the performance. I thought anytime, and this is how I felt about Kendrick Lamar last year, anytime you watch a show, obviously you have the visuals going on in the moment and you're trying to take everything in. When you go back and you watch all the subtle things that are within a halftime show and all the Easter eggs and all the guest performances, when you feel that need to go back and look at all that stuff, that's how you know that the artist did a good job in delivering a cultural moment just beyond singing. So those are my closing thoughts on it. I know we're within a minute left. Owen, it was a great episode. If you have anything else to say it now or forever hold your peace.
So,
Thank you guys for listening to
yep.
Triple Play Podcast, and we will see you guys in the next episode.